Hello everyone, welcome to another ps3 book reviews where I talk about books that I've been reading recently, and I've still been reading this huge thing called the H.P. Lovecraft, the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft, including a lot of his fiction. Not all of it. There are some extra that is not here, false advertisement, but it does have a lot. Anyways, for today's episode, I picked up 7 stories that I read in sequence from where I was the previous time, from page 122 until page 164 of the book. I'm gonna go through all of these stories, and I'm gonna spoil a little bit of the story. But I mean, if you don't want to hear anything about it at all, you're out of luck. But I'll try not to spoil that much, so you can still read it and find it interesting if you want to read it yourself. So, H.P. Lovecraft, the first story that I heard or read was Facts Concerning the Late Arthur Jermyn and His Family. Um, it's pretty insightful. The storyline was different. It went through multiple generations and how the generation is kind of evolved and feels like it's a little bit cursed in some way. And there's this nice reveal at the end of the origin of the whole thing. It was kind of a little bit predictable, but was still very interesting and a lot of food for thought on the whole storyline. But yeah, I like that story. It was pretty good. Maybe 4 stars out of 5, something like that. From Beyond, the next story on the list. From Beyond was pretty decent. Was pretty good, pretty solid. It was the story of this mad scientist of some sort who creates this machine or device that allows you to see senses beyond the senses that you usually see. So you can see sort of into the afterlife or to parallel universe. It's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, he goes a little bit insane because how can you not go a little bit insane? And drags you, the protagonists, along with the journey to experiment the thing and to prove to you that he was right and that you could build such a device. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it's a very interesting read. This one is quite a little higher on the terror scale than most of the other stories from Lovecraft, from this book of Lovecraft in particular. Also, 4 stars out of 5. It's relatively small, but it's pretty decent, and the narrative is okayish. Nyarlathotep um, was interesting. Nothing extremely special. It's the story about this Egyptian god that somehow pops up and starts crawling around the land, amassing armies, and people who hear him get enshrined in his belief and start following him. We talk about the specific um, person who doesn't believe in that but still goes see what all the hype is about, and indeed he falls for the curse. And yeah, just the whole world is about to get cursed by this Nyarlathotep god. Um, yeah, it's pretty not negative, but solemn. I don't know the right word to say it. It wasn't overall that interesting. Maybe 3 stars out of 5, but it was okayish. It was pretty good. The Quest of Iranon. The Quest of Iranon was quite interesting. It's the story of this singer that is looking for um, a singer called Iranon, and he's looking for this land, mythical land that he remembers once that it was a child, and he remembers that it was the prince of that land. And the moment he sets his foot back into it, he will recognize it immediately, and everyone will welcome him as a prince. So he is roaming the lands looking for that land, which he has forgotten, and drags some people along with him that somehow seem to age a lot faster than he does. They don't follow his vision of looking for that beautiful land. He ends up traveling alone some more. Eventually, he finds this old person that tells him some truths about that land that he was looking for. really liked the narrative of the whole thing. I kept wondering where it was going, so it was the plot twist was well placed. I didn't see it coming, and it was a pretty good story. So 4 stars out of 5. Would read again. Um, Next story that I have lined up, the music of Erich Zann. I had heard about the music of Erich Zann by The Escapist, which is this game review channel kind of thing, where the narrator was creating a game based on the music of Erich Zann. So I knew a little bit of what it was about, but not entirely. But it was really interesting to read the story itself. So it's a story of a person who remembers that at some point in time he lived in this city that had a very steep hill, and on the top of that hill, with very tight streets, he found this very cheap apartment for rent, and he lived on the 4th floor, and on the 5th floor was this musician called Erich Zann, and Erich Zann would play for the orchestra during the day, and at night he would play this very weird composition on his bedroom. He was a little bit deaf or a little bit out of his mind, and but the neighbor found the music so entrancing, despite being weird, that he ended up going to meet Erich Zann and sit down on one of his sessions. And Erich Zann was clearly disturbed. In a way that we don't quite understand why. But he really enjoyed playing his music in front of the open window that was facing the entire of the town. And supposedly you could see all the stars and all the lights of the city. From that, it was the best place to see the whole town. And Erich Zann really enjoyed playing that, but the music that he would play would have this weird shifts and sounds that did not sound from this earth at all. And weirder stuff started happening to Erich Zann, and eventually we find out that the window is a gate to another dimension. So, yeah, it was a bit predictable somehow, but it was still interesting to read the whole thing, the way that they portrayed the Erich Zann character, and the whole presentation, the build up to the thing was very well written. So yeah, 4 stars out of 5 as well. Ex Oblivione was very short story, and it felt a little bit, I don't remember it exactly, but it felt like it was a person that was recurrently trying to find the resolution of a certain dream, which was kind of similar to another story of Lovecraft called Celiphies, which I already talked about. But Celiphies felt a lot better than this one. This one felt way too short, and I either didn't understand the point behind it or I forgot it. But I just know that he keeps trying to find the dream. In the end, he somehow manages to find the resolution of the dream. Probably not what he was expecting, but I don't really remember what it was anymore myself, so I don't know, too short to remember. And the last story that I want to talk about on this video is Sweet Ermengarde, which was really different from everything else from Lovecraft I had read so far. It was more like in a play, multiple acts kind of thing, and it was funny, sarcastic kind of vibe, not the sombre kind of feeling that you get from Lovecraft's usual writings. The characters seem interesting, but then they have a lot of plot twists and stuff. I don't know, for a play it didn't seem bad, but I guess I would much rather see it being played as a play instead of reading it, and it was just weird to see it placed in the middle of all the other stuff that is more about terror and short stories and that kind of stuff. But I guess they had the rights to include it, so they just decided to include it, since it's supposed to be the complete fiction and not most of the complete fiction. Even though it is still missing some fiction from Lovecraft. I don't know. Anyways, it was included. I read it. It was okay-ish. Nothing that big. As a play, it might have extra points. I don't know. 3 stars out of 5. And that's all I've been reading of Lovecraft recently. Let me know what you think on the comments below. If you already read any of these stories, if you want to discuss a little bit about them, feel free to send me some comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that jazz. Donate a kidney, always important. And see you next video. Bye bye, everyone. Take care.